What's up, guys, and welcome to Straight from the Chest podcast. My name is Justin Groth, and I'm your host on this personal development and growth podcast. Listen, if you're new to the show, I just want to take this time and I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. And whether this is your second time or 300th time tuning me back in, thank you for your continued support, listenership of the podcast. It means a lot to me. And please get this podcast out to anybody that you know that would find value in it, and please link it to your platform. So whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, link the podcast Straight from the Chest at me at Justin Craig Roth, and I will re-mention you. And look, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do onto the YouTube Straight from the Chest YouTube. We're trying to build that platform. It's at like fucking 45 followers, nothing right now. So please help us to get to at least, 100 by the end of the week. And if you haven't yet subscribed to Spotify, Apple, or SoundCloud, please do so. We're everywhere that there are podcasts. Any major platform, we are on that. So without further ado, got another guest, Chris Cucchiara. What's up, brother? How are you, man? Welcome back.
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me back, man. Good to be back.
It's been a while since I've even seen you in the gym, man. I mean, we probably have conflicting schedules, regards to when we train or whatever. But how's the gym been for you, bro?
You know, it's been good, bro. I get it done in the morning, get there about 5:15, 5:30, because, I get on the phone about 9. And once that the workout buzz kicks in, man, I'm good. If I don't get on the in the gym in the morning and get on the phone, you're not going to want to talk to me at all. So
5:15?
Yeah, 5:15, 5:30.
Jeez, man.
So
how do you even function that early in the morning?
I don't.
What time do you get
I'm
up?
not a human, man. I get up about 4:45, and I got to be out of there before you get in, man, because I know I'm not going to look good if you're there, bro. So I got to go.
I knew I wanted you on for a reason.
Yeah, right.
To flatter me, bro.
No, but it's good, man. Getting it done, it's built a habit in me that, I think has really tipped my success a little bit, towards, doing okay to doing better in business because of that one thing, I think, honestly.
Where were you at before that, though?
Before that, as far as gym time?
Yeah,
gym time, I was like 8 or 9, just get into the office around 11. It's, already halfway through the day, sometimes like 7. So it just wasn't very targeted, man. I know if I hit that and I get that done, it's going to be a good day.
And you couldn't go to the gym after work?
After work, no, man. I didn't feel as good at work. So it became so, specific to me hitting that workout in the morning, and it just dialed in my day to where I was like, I never want to go after. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Do you feel like it does anything different for you when you do in the morning as opposed to at night?
As far as in the morning, I know like the longevity of the day, I can push harder, and the conversations are better, meetings are better if I do it in the day versus or in the morning versus going at night.
Why do you think that is?
I just it's endorphin specific, man. Getting those endorphins flowing early is just maybe just what my body needs for sure. So.
I heard something. Well, I didn't hear this. I read this years ago that there's a thing called BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor.
Okay.
And that's increased, or rather secreted, I believe, when you train, when you work out. So if you ever notice you're more clear and focused after your workout,
right?
Unless you had a really grueling workout and you're not all there because, as a result. But the typical workout for most people, even if it's hard, you still feel like you're alert afterwards. At least you should feel. You shouldn't feel like drained in the dumps.
Yeah.
But then again, we've had those workouts where we just feel drained. Like I feel drained. Like I don't want to do shit. I just want to lay in my bed.
Right.
But if you don't have those workouts and you have just the basic workouts, but still hard or whatever, you're putting effort in, that BDNF, that seems to be the culprit behind why you're so much more clear, focused, more attentive. You stay on task.
Sure.
Your conversations flow better. The fluidity of your exchange is better.
Yeah.
You probably noticed that.
I think you nailed it. The fluidity of just the linguistics and just the fluidity of like a natural rapport with people right away.
Yeah.
And, they feel it too. I know, how you go into a sales meeting or a phone call, you want to be high energy and you want to be able to influence that person if they're ready to be influenced, right? And so, you want to say the right things. And I know that I do say the right things to move to the next step. That is good for that person if they're ready. If I had that workout and the fluidity does kick in a lot in that regard.
Well, for people that don't know quite who you are or what you do, tell them.
Yeah. So, 4 years ago, I became a real estate agent. Kind of did the first year was rough. Did not do good. Did the side hustle for a couple years after that. But, the last 2 years I've been full-time real estate and, hired a coach. So just trying to, scale right now the business to, probably going to do 19 transactions this year, maybe 20. And then the goal is to just build about 20% on that each year.
Jeez. Is that, I'm not into real estate at all. Is that average?
Great question, man. It can range from 4 to 7 average, and in this market, you can do pretty good off 4 to 7, but in other marketplaces, I mean, you would not make it, so.
Well, I guess it depends on how obviously expensive the house is.
Makes
like, if your income is what 5% on a $200,000, $300,000 home or
right.
shack.
Shack.
Not even in here where we live here. That's not even a shack, man. I mean, $1 million sometimes gets you a shack.
Yeah, shack.
Especially if you're in like Shell or whatever.
Yeah, especially Shell.
But yeah, man. So 19 or 20, especially in this area, is really, really good, bro.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Thank you, bro. I mean, just like with anything, I encourage people. Like, hey, I failed the real estate exam 3 times, man. 3 times. I went back to Fresno, back and forth. And I always encourage people, maybe that year, the first year or second year in business, even the third year might suck. But, if you have a vision, you can cultivate that passion in your stomach every morning to be like, you know what, I can suffer through the tough times. And having an end goal in mind with a big enough why is, I think, what has gotten me past those tough years. So now being able to enjoy it and really get some momentum. So,
well, okay, in that process, there is a lot of it. You've had these days, I'm sure, where you're like, what's not working out. Like this, there's something happening here where this should be easier,
sure,
but not easier for the respects of saying it's easy. This should be more fluid, like, for lack of a better word, man. Like, so when you have those days, what do you do?
Like? Yeah, more fluid. Like, those days, it's just, because I forget who it was, but it talks about playing the macro versus the micro, or the infinite game, essentially. If you have an end goal of making $100,000 and getting out of business, those days, those fluid days where it should be or feel like fluidity, are going to be really tough, to where it might push you out of the business even sooner than maybe getting that monetary goal, but having no long-term vision.
Yeah.
So I guess to your question, always going back to like, hey, why do I want to do this? I want to have enough financial security to be able to retire, financial freedom, to maybe not retire but be able to, and then take care of the family, of course, man. So,
what got you into real estate, though?
Great question, man. I was doing personal training for about a year, and I like the sales aspect of it. I love dealing with people, but the passion for training wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I figured, you know what, I'll try another sales career, and my stepmom was doing it pretty big in the Bay Area when I was a kid. And so, I liked kind of her style. Let me try it out. I mean, I can always do something new. And right from the day one, that fluidity kind of feeling kicked into where like, I like this. I feel like that was where I was meant to be at the time. So, and until it doesn't feel like that, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah. I don't think that's, I mean, you found something that you're good at and that you can that complements you. And that's the thing. It's like, many of us can be good at certain things, but do they complement us, complement our profile, our psyche, etc.? Like, because the things that complement us, they are going to keep driving us to do them.
Yeah, true.
We're wired by ego, bro. And so at least as men. So if that thing complements us, we're going to keep driving to enact upon that specific thing that does so complement us. I mean, it's the same thing with women. You're going to want to tote around your woman if she's attractive.
Totally.
And, or if she has status in the community or whatever. Like, when I say status, I mean like guys want to get her but haven't.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right,
like that's
right.
status to a man.
Yeah.
For a woman at least. But you want those, you want to chase that, and drives you towards that, because that's complimenting you, your ego, etc., and complimenting maybe what you could be or what more you could be,
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I mean, ego driven for sure. It does like stroke the ego when you're good at stuff, right? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Also, the expansion of, as you probably know, man, growing a business and seeing that expansion. I mean, you feel it on a spiritual and like a conscious level, to where it's like, this is addicting, because I mean, I think we're put here on this earth to become the best we can, version of ourselves, right? I think God put us there for that. And so the more you do that, the more you feel in touch with your purpose, you know? And of course, it's great to make a lot of money too. That's the goal. So I'm not going to lie about that. There's good money to be made. And I think you should go and pursue a life of financial freedom. So I think those two are big for me, and they hit it together with real estate. So
yeah, I agree with that, man. I used to not think that was the business, to go where the money was. But the thing is, when you're going where the money is, you're actually, if you don't have the mindset of one of the dark triad traits like Machiavellian-like or narcissistic or psychopathic, you're going to want to make more money so you can give to others, because essentially that's what allows you to do that. You have that, you were saying, financial freedom, but it's freedom in multiple avenues, bro. I mean, like, you're able to now, let's say, retire your mom, retire your dad,
right,
and give them something that they never could have given themselves.
Right.
That should be the driving force behind you making a lot of fucking money, or starting a nonprofit organization, not having to make money on that because you have so much money, because you made so much money. You can now maybe save dogs or animals or what have you, like do something. Right. And you should want to collect money for that reason, you know?
You know, to your point, man, the more you can get and be, you know, not that you need $1 billion or whatever, but, you know, people say, well, there's so much more important things than money. Well, yeah, of course there is, but you can't focus on those important things if you don't have money. Like, you know, if I didn't, you know, you want to see your mom, right? But you're working 60 hours a week at maybe something you're just scraping by at. Are you going to be able to be with your mom that much? Probably not.
Yeah. So
I think it's obviously a tool, as cliche as that sounds, to spend more time with the more important things than are important than money.
I think that media or government or what have you has lied to us in that regard and told us money doesn't make you happy or money doesn't make you well off or whatever. Yeah, there's certain people that have personality, that develop personality dysfunctions or disorders when they go through the onset of so much money accrual. But I mean, those people likely had maybe tumultuous childhoods or upbringings, or maybe they got very, very famous at a young age and didn't know what the fuck to do with it. Sure. You know, that kind of fame, and that just kind of led them down the road of being more impressionable and you know, engaging in like different activities like drug oriented or whatever, or substance abuse. The thing is that when you have a person with a good head on their shoulders and they make a lot of money, they can do really good with that.
Totally.
And to the extension of the public or their family members, you know?
Yeah. And I think you're right, man. The media does demonize it to a sense to where, in my opinion, man, it wants you to, well, I'd taken it from Joe Rogan, but to work for the man because they want, you know, people to work for him.
Yeah, no, that's right. It is. Because we need people to subjugate their own dreams or visions. We need them, dude. And I need them too, like just as much as you do, dude. Like we need 100%. People to work these jobs that we don't want to work, you know?
And if that fulfills you, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I just think there should be an end goal with financial freedom to allow yourself to manifest your best self. Because I think the people that I know have done really well financially, man, they are able to cultivate more of an empathetic approach to life, to where you don't really see it to someone in survival mode. You know, you can go to a higher level of consciousness when you're not worried about every single day finances. So that's the goal, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a really good point. When you don't have to worry about money, you can do things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to immerse yourself in. And those are things of activity. Those are things of thought. You have time now. But that's not to say that it's not going to take a lot of time and tenacity on your end to create said financial freedom, because it is, man.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people fall off the horse, is they just don't have that tenacity or that grit to keep going, and to understand that there are going to be multiple days of frustration, multiple days where you stay in neutral or even decline a little bit.
Right.
Seasons, etc. like that. Those seasons of drought are going to happen. But I mean, what's the alternative? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Like that's, I'm sure subconsciously what you ask yourself is what I subconsciously ask myself. What's the alternative here? Like the alternative is to what? I don't have an answer for that, because I don't even think about the alternative. Sure. Because my mind is steadfast on the things that I find value in, the things that I do, the things that even though they're not necessarily bringing me the ROI yet, I don't care.
Sure.
As long as I can do them to some degree while simultaneously doing the other things that make me, the ability to pay my bills, etc.
Sure,
like
right.
that's good right now. It's not optimal, but it's okay.
It's okay.
It has to be.
Man, like it reminds me of a quote, like when you have hope in the present, or there's power in the future when there's hope in the present, right? So you seem like such a path-driven person, to where you almost have to have like a little path going to your big path. It seems like is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, but you were the same way, because if it were all about real estate, you would have never done these odds and end jobs that you needed to do to make ends meet.
Sure.
Those are the things that fed the vision. They just helped sustain life in the interim of you gravitating towards this higher level.
Totally.
Within your real estate, man. I mean, but you are a prime example of what you have to do to make the vision work.
Sure. And you know what, man? I think it goes back to my dad, dude, just seeing his grit. And doing what it took to start his business. And, he did what it took. He would sell supplements. He's a fitness guy, as you know, sell supplements or, do side hustles. And then, one day he made it, kind of thing. He was making good money and he didn't need to do that stuff anymore. So I think just, I saw your last podcast too. I made a couple back, but talking about your dad and how that's the foundation of you, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, if dad can do it, I got to go do it too. And, make him proud in a sense. 'Cause, that's a big thing for me, so.
Yeah, I was kind of referring to, you are how you were raised pretty much. And so I was raised in a household of entrepreneurs. So entrepreneur, because my dad was the one that started it.
Sure.
My mom is the one who supported it.
And they were together the whole time?
And they're together the whole time.
Okay.
So, and by the way, I'm blessed to say that. That's a huge thing. So,
sure.
Yeah. So if I had seen my dad collect a paycheck, go to work, and just collect paycheck every week and bring home and meet ends meet with that, I would not have questioned that that's what I do as well.
Right.
But because I didn't see that and this is all I saw, well, this is the standard now that I have to meet too. Sure. But it wasn't like there was a alternative. There was never an alternative. Like, sure, there's an alternative by, in the scope of reality, but that was never an option.
Right. Okay. Got it. So you knew it was in the background. Like I could do this, but it's not even like it's so far back and hazy that you don't even see it.
It is immensely hazy and faint. And I guess in the regard of survival, sure. But I could also exile myself to an island and live off the fucking grid.
Yeah.
That's an option.
Yeah, survival.
How far do you want to get down this fucking hole? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could do that shit too. So,
I can see you doing it too, dude.
But we don't.
Right.
Right?
But I hear what you're saying, man. I do.
But that's innately why... That's what's innate to me to do whatever said thing I am doing. I think is basically been predicated on the way my dad moved in life and what I saw him, how I saw him speak to people, how he engaged, what he did every day, what my mom did. Now, I'm not in the business of landscape because that's what his career is in. Mm-hmm. But I had to find whatever entrepreneur space or I had to find whatever entrepreneurial path that fit my profile was.
Sure.
And so I did a few things in life and they've led me to this point, but they've all been entrepreneurial. I mean, I've had jobs and shit, but it's never been, I've never had a driver or focus for the job that I have.
Okay. So, and obviously your fitness has been your thing for what, over a decade now?
Yeah.
When you started, because obviously the longevity of being in the business for 10 years plus is really freaking awesome, man. From what I'm understanding and seeing, the attrition rate is high for people starting businesses. Which props to you, man, is phenomenal.
Thanks, man.
When you first got into it, you said you had stuff before this that you were doing entrepreneurship or to make money. Did it feel like it clicked right away when you got into fitness? Or was it like, hey, this is what I'm meant to do kind of thing?
No, I actually fell out after about 3 months. I fell out of fitness. When I say fitness, for people that don't know this, I'm a personal trainer by trade. And I got my first certificate, which is just CPT, rather, sorry. And I went on the floor for about 2 or 3 months at Fitness 19, local gym in my area. And I was like, I don't want to do this shit no more. And the reason was because I was not in it for the right reasons. And I thought I was naturally going to get into this, train my buddies, do bodybuilding type shit and like make money. And that just wasn't, that was a fallacy. So when I started training these, you know, older sedentary women, basically what my market ended up becoming, that wasn't fun for me when I saw my buddies in there getting their pump on.
Sure.
And, you know, lifting weights and getting swole. Meanwhile, I'm in there like feeling like I'm sucked up. Like I can't, you know, I'm not training. I feel cold and soft looking. And for me back then, that was the ego. It was a large portion of ego affiliated with that. But, and it wasn't, I guess the focus of training wasn't enough for me to keep in it. So I was like, you know, fuck this. I'm gonna call out. And I went back to work for my parents doing landscape.
Okay.
And then I realized I don't want to do this shit either.
Yeah.
So then I went to I was offered a job down in LA to train. And so I took that job, and then that kind of reinstated the I guess the impetus to want to train. And so then I came back down here, then I did it, but I did it on my own terms.
Okay.
Started my own business, even though it was just a small mobile business, but I went to the person. I went to the park. I did training at the park. But once I had something that was mine, the dynamic shifted.
Yeah. You know, man, and I think like just, you know, there's A, B, and C players, and you might even do better as a B player, you know, working for someone else or under maybe like the umbrella of a gym or a brokerage. But you seem like such an A player that, you know, that's just congruent with who you are, even if it might have been more monetarily better for you to work for someone. And tell me if I'm wrong, but it just seems like what you're saying, you kind of had to find that place of being, I guess, more of an A player, of doing your own thing, to really feel like, hey, you know, no matter what happens, I got this. I'm going to grind and I'm going to do what it takes.
Well, and the threat becomes more substantial when you have risk, when there's risk involved. So when you go to work for somebody, there's no risk involved.
Right, sure.
But when you go to work for yourself, you're putting money into equipment, you're putting money into advertising, etc. There's risk involved. And whenever there's risk involved, stakes become higher and the value becomes more prominent, because you now have to make this work if it's something that you deem valuable. And obviously the ego is centered around that as well. But that's what the driving impetus becomes at that point, because there's risk involved. And I don't want what's apart from the risk, which is failure. I don't want failure out of this risk that I'm taking.
I hear you.
So I do what I have to do to avoid that.
To avoid it, right. Right. So you know what you're saying is you actually function better when your back's up against the
when
wall.
there's risk.
That's cool, man. That's really cool.
But if you think about most entrepreneurs, I mean, obviously there's a part of the definition of being an entrepreneur is assuming risk and taking risks. So maybe perhaps that was kind of substantiated with regards to my dad and seeing him, or it's just I hate to say this because there's no factual proof of this, but it's in my blood. Sure. I don't know, man. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's how what family I was brought up in. Because like I said, I really believe that we're all very, very we're very impressionable. And especially from a young age, from 0 to 5, when the mind's the most plastic, what I saw is what I naturally gravitated towards.
Makes sense.
And if I had been in a household that was just about going to your 9 to 5, then I'd have done that shit. I just would have done something different, right? But I still would have done that.
Sure.
It's the likelihood of me coming out of that and being an entrepreneur is fucking rare. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, definitely rare.
Very slim. So, but I'm thankful for that. But it's a burden. It's a burden, and it's a blessing at the same time, you know. But I also believe that the avenue of entrepreneur or being an entrepreneur has led me to identify other things about me and my profile, my personality profile, that I probably wouldn't have otherwise identified, because if I was in a job and being told what to do, etc., and not being on my own, well, then I wouldn't uncover a lot of things, you know, and I think most of us would. Right.
Sure. Yeah, I think, you know, there's like 4 types of personalities, and I think like you fall under obviously the driver, I think. Just thinking about it actually on the way here. And it, you know, it seems like you can be aggressive and blunt, but that's just you. Like you want to say it how it is, and that's it. And like that can come across, if you did work a 9 to 5, probably abrasive, and it might not work out. So it seems like when you found that, like, hey, I'm going to do my own thing, that driver personality really set in, and you were able to be congruent and fluid. You know, we've been using that word. There was more of a fluidity to your life, maybe. Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah. And what do you think? Do you think that you can, it's going to sound like be someone you're not, but do you think that you can make it out of an already kind of predisposed path that you are seeing in front of you? You're not really quite sure what to take from it. What I'm saying is the illustration is when you're young and you see this, you know, you're seeing things around you, your mom, your dad, what they do for a living. Do you think that you would want to do something different or emulate different than the people that you look up to the most?
Yeah, I mean, probably not, man. Honestly, I mean,
in that regard, it's like, how do you change?
How do you change, right? So, yeah, like you're saying, you're born with it, or it's just instilled at a young age. That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, man. We're so moldable as a kid. We're so moldable. We want to emulate everything we see, right? So, yeah, I hear you, man.
We're still moldable, and that's a scary thing. We're still moldable, whether our egos want to accept that shit or not. We're still moldable. People who you hang out with, people that you listen to, people that you read, they will become you if you're not careful.
Totally.
And then you will lose you in the process. And that is something that I'm not in agreement with, for lack of a better word. That's why you and I are very different in this regard, because you read a lot, and I don't know who you listen to, but you read. I know you read a lot. I don't know who you read. I choose, one, reading makes me fall asleep, but two, even if it didn't, I still likely wouldn't read. And I don't listen to a lot of people anymore, because I found, and I've said this in a bunch of other podcasts, I found that I start to act like that person or speak like that person, and I fucking hate that. I despise that, because I'm not really being myself, and that's a problem. So I don't read for that reason. I don't care who's successful, who's read all these books. I don't care.
Sure.
I don't care if they are the ones that are saying you need to read these books and get mentors and they're successful. I don't care. I don't look at that as the pathway to take. For everything in my biological wiring says don't do that. And don't do that, because you'll lose yourself in the process. Because even though you're 37, you're still impressionable at this point in your life. You're still fucking impressionable. Why are you impressionable? Because you're still trying to find who, what makes you up. So in the process, if you're not careful and you don't reflect and go to you first, and you go to others, or you by means of listening or reading, then you'll lose yourself in the process. You won't uncover who you really are, and you'll just be a reflection of them. And no one wants that. No one really wants that in terms of their identity. They don't want to be a reflection of it. They always want to be unique. Everybody wants to be different. Yeah. Well, this is the way to make yourself different. You have to identify what I guess pathway that you can carve, and you stay on that path, even if you're not only one there, but you have no direction in the process. And there's some people that I learn from. I can't help but get snips of people, and I'm like, that's a really good point, man. Yeah. But I don't actively seek it out. That's the difference, man. If I were to actively seek it out and put time into that, knowing how much discipline I have to put time into certain things that matter, I'd become a different version of me, and it wouldn't be the one that's identifiable with who I am from a biological standpoint. And I would never really uncover who the fuck I am. And that's a problem to me. That's always been a problem.
So I was going to ask, it's always been, so obviously we operate from core values, right? We have to have core values. Even if you say you don't, you do. Authenticity seems like your number one, regardless of anything else. Maybe there might be secondary ones, and so you say it's always been like that. I wonder, is your pops like that too, or again, were you just born like that? What does that look like?
My dad comes from the school of fucking hard knocks. If I told you I know people say that because they want to, act like their dad's a tough, rugged guy. My dad didn't want to be in that position. He was thrown in that position based on his upbringing, his
Okay.
childhood.
Sure.
From a young age, man, he's been through a lot of shit, and it's not. My dad is such a the process of him cultivating himself. He's not. He should be a harder person. He's very, and he was hard in his earlier years, but he's grown to be a little more softer with his approach, probably because he's 60.
Sure.
But my dad didn't. The furthest thing from my dad's thought was to fucking read a book, and that's not where I got it from. Because he, for all I know, he could have read books, but
Sure.
I would presuppose that man has not read books because it's just not something that would likely strike his fancy. Like
Sure.
for me, it's the same thing. But reading books, it's not just about reading books. I'm talking about the advent of adopting people's vernacular and their viewpoints and their ideologies because you admire them and respect them.
Sure.
That's really muddy water. When you admire and respect somebody, you don't understand what your brain is starting to now pull and receive from that person that you admire, respect. You think you're just listening. You think you're just like, spectating, but you're absorbing so much, and you may not see it right away, but eventually that shit comes out when you're talking to somebody or when you're even thinking to yourself.
Sure.
You're like, well, how would I? You don't think like this, but no, I wonder what he would think about this.
Sure.
She would think about it.
Yeah.
That's a problem because you have to think to yourself. I'm not saying that you should dispense with everything you think about, but like you should be able to be strong enough and independent enough in terms of your identification to think for yourself and land on that rock and stay there.
That makes sense, man. I mean, I agree and disagree. Obviously, I read a lot. So what you're saying is very true, man. I think the more you deviate from the authentic person, the more you're going to lose yourself, right? For me, again, my pops read a shit ton of books as a kid. He had the library with a bunch of books, and I had always admired him for that because he was always learning. He came from a shitty background, too. And with him, it was like the personal development was his way out. You know what I mean? Like talking about changing from your parents, he flip-flopped 180%. So I think that's where I get it for sure. I am willing, as I grow more, read more, to delineate and kind of discard what I don't want better. But as a kid, I definitely would adapt more personalities to where I was reading for sure. And I think that goes all the way back to like, evolution. Like you want to like kind of be like the crowd to fit in with the crowd to survive. So you don't get your ass kicked out of the group and fucking get eaten by a lion. You know what I mean? So I think that's like kind of generally how, but anyway, so that's how I look at it. But my pops did read a lot. And for me, again, going back to expansion is one of my core values for sure. I want to see how much I can become here on this earth in this short time we have here. And it makes me feel like, I'm becoming a little bit of a better Chris each maybe book I read.
Do you feel like, is there anybody you look up to more in the book space than anybody else?
More in the book space, I think I just look up to myself more that I'm able to chew through and get through books, and the more I read, the more I feel like I become like my own bigger fan of myself, honestly.
Okay, so but
is there anyone I look up to?
Is there anyone like you like reading more? I should say it like that.
I'll read no names and big names, but I think, I do like Joe Rogan a lot. He doesn't write, but if we're talking about anyone I like and maybe gravitate to, it's him. Jordan Peterson. I think my thought process is similar to them, so obviously I'm like, okay, they're kind of like me. I gravitate towards them, right?
Yeah.
And I think I generally gravitate to people that encourage the more of the male persona too. Like, more of the old school writers of more of a grittiness to them. I like gritty people.
Yeah.
Because I think that we're losing that sense of grit in the society and becoming softer. And I don't know if there's an ultimate plan for that, if it just happened, or if the higher ups are trying to, force that into the society. But I think the further we get away from that gritty male-female personality, I think we will lose ourselves. That authenticity will be lost on a big scale.
Yeah.
And again, that's just my opinion. I know there's people that differ, but I think I'm fucking right about that. So,
excuse me. Well, what you just said right there is very, very profound, and I don't mean all the good jargon prior to you saying, I think I'm fucking right. Because yes, to some degree that's arrogant of somebody to say that, even if I were to say that, but where you're not trying to be arrogant. It's in the context of where you're saying it. And the context is, this is whether you like it or not, this is what I believe.
Sure.
And that's it. It's not like, you're not saying, fuck you, it doesn't matter what you think, or I'm right in this regard because I'm me and I'm right on everything. That's not how you're saying it. You're just saying, like, it doesn't matter what you think, this is what I think.
This is what I think. It truly, to my core, that's what I think. And I'll tell you whether you're yelling at me or you disagree with me or agree with me. That's just my truth. And there it is. Like, again, not trying to be egotistical or I'm right, you're right. Everyone has their own truths and backgrounds, but this is what I believe. And like, I'm willing to tell anyone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I like the fact that you do want to better yourself. And that's another reason. That's one of the main reasons why I want you on here, is because I know that you've shared a little bit of your story in the other podcast, but you're a go-getter all the time. It's not like you're not okay with just being what you were last year or whatever.
Sure.
And there's a lot of qualities that are attached to that make the human being the human being. So for you, what have been some of those qualities that have kept you, or rather put you in the position that you're in?
Man, I think experiences in life, again, shape you. To your point, man, we are moldable still, and things that happen to us will change us, better or worse. So obviously, as cliche as it sounds, I try to take every, maybe negative or any experience and try to take some positivity from it, whether it's right away or maybe 10 years from now, thinking back. But, when my brother died and my brother died 2 years ago. And then my mom, she had brain damage from an overdose 12 years ago. So, you see people that you really love and cut short, their time's cut short, right? And with so much potential. I mean, I know that, you favor your family and you think they're the best. But, my mom and especially my brother, man, like he was a drug user for 10, 15 years, 20 years maybe. He died at 35, so that gives you a sense. But he had so much innate sports potential, man, that if he just channeled any of that instead of into alcohol, that intensity into sports, he would have been a pro hockey player, probably. That's what I think. And then, with my mom, insanely empathetic, nurturing person. She was a nurse and just getting going in her career. And then that happened. So you see like the potentiality of a human, especially that you grew up with and admired and looked up to. You see that time cut short and it's like, dang, man, you really start to feel your time clock ticking. And like, as much as we want to feel like we're going to live forever or just deny the death's coming, it's fucking right behind us, man. So seeing that gave me a new perspective to where like, okay, I can go down that path, or I can go become all I could be here, try to be, and use this time a lot more wisely than them. So
it's the onset of threat, man. Right? Totally. Like the threat that keeps you, or rather lights a fire under your ass to do more and to be more. And a lot of people will look at that as like, well, you're on a power trip. You want more. You want to do all this. You want to be all this. But why? Why? Sure. Why aren't you? I remember I had a gal tell me, I was sort of dating her, not really. And she said, why aren't you just happy like with this, like your business? At the time she was saying studio. Why aren't you just happy? And I said, it's not that I'm not happy with it. Like I'm very grateful and happy in air quotes to be here, to be doing this, but it's not my full potential, period. Like you just have to understand that. But men and women are wired differently. Men are wired to want to become more and have the burden of becoming far more greater on them than I would argue women do. Sure. I'm not saying all women don't have that, but most women are not burdened with the act of becoming something every fucking day and it beckoning at them. Yeah. Okay, so naturally she would say that. But that's my reply to that. It's like I don't have to. It's just it's inculcated within me. Like I have to do this and I have to see my full potential. Yeah. Like or what? What's the alternative?
Or what? Like you said, there's no alternative, right? For
there isn't. And I guess there is in terms of survival.
Sure.
Like we talked about, like, I could get a 9 to 5. I could go work at McDonald's.
Sure.
I could go work at a fast food chain, etc. But that's not even in my thought process.
Yeah.
And I would argue that if I allowed it to be there, if I allowed a plan B or a plan C or D, then I'd likely default to possibly one of those plans.
Sure. Yeah. Just having option A, that's it.
Yeah, and option A with like sub A's attached to option A.
yeah.
What are the sub A's?
Right.
You doing these little mindless, vacuous jobs here and there to support the vision.
Totally.
But never let go of the vision.
Yeah. Never let go of the vision. Right. Exactly. So yeah, doing the sub A's.
What does that even mean?
But
sub A's.
But it might be like entrepreneurship, but like side hustles or little.
Yeah,
little
exactly.
Things. Yeah,
exactly
sure.
like you were doing, man. Exactly. You're the exact example of what I'm trying to illustrate here. You had the vision of real estate. That's A. That's not changing. However, to allow yourself to survive in real life in California and pay your house.
Put food on the freaking table,
Put food in your house, yeah. And obviously put protein in your system.
Yeah.
you needed to do these sub A's. I don't call them plan B's, man.
Yeah.
They're just sub A's, like sub parcels of what the plan A is.
Sure.
Well, that meant you had to do these little odds and end jobs that weren't really crisp, but they were because they're helped to cultivate the actual dream and generate more momentum towards doing the thing that he really, really wants to do.
And even if it's not more you can manifest a more authentic self of whoever the hell you are, more of a you version of the authentic self. If you're pursuing that long-term vision, like if you're just doing side hustles or something maybe you don't want to do, and I got to do this, but there's no end goal, and then you're gonna burn out and not be yourself. But I found myself being very Chris-like in those things that I didn't really want to do because there was an end goal, So I felt like it was good, man. I mean, the sub A's were pretty good.
You're right. You found out, but you were finding out what you're willing to do.
Sure.
In terms of, and let's just call it what it is. You're willing to downgrade your ego for a second.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? To be able to create whatever it was that you wanted that was going to lend its hand towards financial freedom, and really just look. A lot of money was into real estate marketing,
sure,
etc. But a lot of money is to be made, especially if you know real estate really well and you know the market, etc. So. It's not security. It's not like job security.
Definitely not.
But that risk drives you.
Definitely drives me. I mean, back against the wall, I do thrive. And then even the financial thing about real estate, I didn't even know how the hell people got paid or how much they got paid when I got into real estate. It just felt right when I started going. And then I got my first check and I'm like, oh, this is more than I thought I was going to make, honestly. So I really didn't even know how much people got paid. Like I hear the stories of people getting rich, but I didn't even know the percentage you got paid. It just felt right to where, like, in the first time in my life, I felt like, damn, this feels fucking right.
Well, the people that are getting rich on real estate, correct me if I'm wrong, most of them are investing in other real estate. Once they get their money, they're not just blowing it on Rolexes and Lambos. They're investing in more real estate, and then that money's making money for them.
That, and you can't get rich doing real estate. If you just, so I always, I've been taught, and I always tell new people to treat it like a 9-to-5 job. Going back to 9 to 5, would you show up to a job late, or would you leave early, or would you slack off? No, you wouldn't. So just treat it like a 9-to-5 job. So one day it becomes that ultimate vehicle of freedom. And the people that have done that, I've seen have done very well. They're, very disciplined, and a very small amount of people can do that, I find. Just to be self-disciplined in that sense. And I struggle with it every day. Sometimes I'm not very good at it. But if I do it 80-90% of the time, the results will come. And just treat it like a job. That's it.
Yeah. Do you think that people get into it because it's like they can make their own schedule?
It's funny, man, because people get into it and they work 60 hours a week at a job and they don't and they're struggling, but they expect to do 15 hours a week in real estate and blow up. I'm like, what is that thought process? I mean, there's a fallacy of real estate that it's easy money. It's the hardest money I've ever fucking made.
Is it really?
Yeah, definitely at first.
Well, and it's also it's like that for any kind of it's like that for any kind of, I guess, entrepreneurial space job.
Sure.
Like they've done a lot of studies on this. I'm going to take this to fitness now. So I've done a lot of studies on like how certain people accrue their muscle when they're building muscle in the space of bodybuilding, let's say, call it, right? And there's so many different ways to build muscle, and you know this, right? There's all these different metrics of hypertrophy to strength to power, etc. Like
there's a lot going
slow,
on.
the eccentric, what makes you grow muscle when you slow down the eccentric, explosive concentrics, etc. What they found is when all things are based, even from all the programs, all the different programming that anybody could be on, what they found and this is based on bodies, genetics, etc. What they found is that the number of hard reps are the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
So whether you get there from doing more volume, but the last reps of the volume are hard reps, or in juxtaposition to you doing less volume, more heavier loads, where you get to that hard rep sooner.
Like right off the bat.
Either way, it's because muscles respond to tension. And the only thing that's going to create tension is harder reps, more weight, etc., more tonnage, all that accrued together, right? Yeah. Well, same thing goes for putting in your time to develop a skill. You need to put in the time. You need to accrue the amount of hard reps it takes to end up becoming a master at your skill, or rather becoming, like in your situation, more financially free.
Right.
You can't just go in there, like a guy can't go in there and lift for 30 minutes half-ass and expect to have a Chris Bumstead physique after a couple of months.
Yeah, right.
Like you need to
Olympia ready after 6 months.
Yeah, you need to accrue these hard reps, man. And so that's basically to your point of where you're saying it doesn't matter. But what matters is you putting in the work and the effort.
Right. And that's again, just showing up day in, day out, and anything in life, if you want to get good at it, I've noticed you got to show up if you feel like shit or if you feel great, right? No matter what, get out of bed and get there. Again, that is part of the battle. It's not half the battle or 90% like people saying. The battle is in the work, but getting there is a big thing, and just getting your ass there no matter how you feel. And, with that too, that being said, to your point, man, I think there's stages we go through where we suck. We don't know we suck, and then we suck, then we know we suck. But we're like advancing, but it doesn't feel like advancement. And then you get to a point where it's very hard, but you're very competent. Like you're good, but it's like you're in there the whole time trying to remember, do this, do that, do that. And then at a certain point, you're competent subconsciously, and you're just damn good. And and people know it too. So
you exude that confidence, people receive it, but the way to get there is to just continuously practice it.
100%.
Because then it's like you can dispense anytime, anywhere, right when you get out of bed. It doesn't matter. No nootropics in the system.
No.
You don't need nothing. And you can just decimate people. Not like in the bad way, but you can decimate in terms of how you deliver something, convey something. It's articulated well. Because this stuff is just autonomous now. It becomes autonomous.
Autonomous, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've noticed a difference in you from the last podcast we did 7-8 months, whatever it was, 8 months ago. You seem more confident in your ability to convey something. Like when I say something, I mean basically everything that we've, like the first couple of minutes talking with you, I could see it. It was just, it's nothing that happens short from just practicing it every day, man.
Totally, man.
And that's something that I'm gonna put a disparaging quotient on your name right now. That's something that reading can't help you with.
Okay.
It can't.
Yeah.
You may be able to learn a couple of words,
right,
and help your vocabulary, which helps you to come across as smarter. But apart from that, you are you, bro.
Totally,
and
man.
So the only thing that cultivated that thing out of Chris was the measure of more time.
Right. I mean, you look at like someone like yourself, who I've seen your ass do like 400-pound good mornings, but there's a new guy who just is like, neuromuscularly, coordinating and trying to balance, but then like yourself, who's put in probably 15 years of fitness now, and you just do it, man. You show up, and if you feel like crap, you can still lift that weight, and you're a genetic freak.
I'm not. But
he is.
Do you want to know something, man? I'm such an idiot when it comes to working out that I will train. This is not good. I will train sick, and I'm not pedestalizing this as like you should do or advocating for this. But I train sick. I train when I had COVID. I fucking train, dude. And it's like unless I am dead,
Yeah.
or I can't get out of bed, bro, or like I got like vertigo and I'm throwing up and shit.
Yeah.
Then I will call it out for the day because
Sure.
I physically can't go
Right.
and be there without throwing up or feeling lightheaded. Well, then what's the workout at that point,
Sure.
right? But I say all this to say the reason why I do these things sick and having COVID or whatever. And by the way, I didn't know I had COVID, and I had COVID. I went to the gym, and
Okay.
I fucked up, man, because that was not good. Because this is a time where we weren't wearing masks or anything.
Yeah, got it.
And I really take that back because that was a stupid thing to fucking do if somebody were immune compromised, etc.
You know, man, it was hard to know it sometimes. I mean, sometimes you
Yeah.
don't even know.
I ended up finding out. I mean, I had some symptoms, but I didn't have like symptoms.
Yeah.
And but just in the days of like having a sickness or having a cold, or even like the flu or whatever.
Yeah.
I might go to my gym and train apart from people, so I
Right.
don't get them sick. But I would still train nonetheless. And the reason why I say all that to say, the reason why I do is because it's important to me. It just comes down to a simple metric. Is this important to you or not? If it's not important to you, you're going to find every fucking excuse to say, nah,
Right.
and omit it from the equation. But if it's important, you find everything to go against you not doing the thing.
You know, man, yeah, that's such a good point. Like, even like a falling apart relationship, like if you're in it to fucking win it, go all the way, first place, you're gonna, even if it's bad, you find ways how it'll, make it work. But if you're over it, you find every way to leave her or leave him, whatever. So,
well, that brings me to the point. You were saying that you got a new relationship now.
yeah, man.
So what's that looking like, bro?
Well, she's Italian, so, and I'm Italian, so we're, it's a pretty loud relationship.
Cook spaghetti.
You get cookie spaghetti. She's a good
Lasagna.
cook, man. So, yeah, man, she's actually, this is the first time I've dated anyone really substantially younger. So she's 25, I'm 33. So, it's good, man. I mean, we're still at the phase where it's like, I'm not sure if it's going to work out. Honestly, we've gone through some stuff where it's like, it's testing the waters, so, but we're going to the concert tonight and it's good enough to, be introducing her to the family tonight. So, there's
Oh,
potential.
first time.
Yeah, dude.
Are you? She's probably gonna listen to this, so you shouldn't say anything that.
No, everything we're real authentic, man.
Good,
That's what
good.
I like about her. She's we've hit things on the head to where it's actually very shocking that she's 25 and has that sort of mindset to where she's real. So I like that about her, man.
Do you remember when I told you years ago that I started dating this 20-year-old, and I was
You
like,
told me that, man.
no, I did.
Did
I
you?
remember the time in the gym. I remember you. It was remember when the calf machine was right next to the assisted pull-up station that was right next to the mirror. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so when that was that way, I remember you were on the calf machine.
Okay.
And we were talking, and the reason why I remember is because you were peeking over the machine, like the white part of the machine. And I remember you say, well, I hope it works out, and I was like pumped on it, because it's a
for
brand
sure.
new relationship. And this girl was 20.
Yeah.
And obviously it went nowhere, but I was pumped on it in the beginning because she was young, but she was almost too young for me, man. Because I
Sure.
think at that point I was 30, like 2 or 3.
Okay.
So she was borderline too young. But I remember we had that conversation. I told you about it, and I'm like, yeah, man, like, I'm excited about her to some degree, If I had the reason why I say is because I don't think you're scared that she's 25 and you're like kind of apprehensive about that because 25 is old enough.
Sure.
Take it from me, who's dated people who are not 25. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I envy you because, and I envy you in the good way, like I'm applauding you because 25, provided you guys can, amalgamate well, is a prime age for a female.
Sure.
She's just getting out of the phase of playing, having fun, getting into the phase of like, oh, I want to meet a man now, wants to settle down,
Sure.
have children.
Right.
I'm assuming she doesn't have children?
No
children. Never been married?
Never been married.
Clean slate, man.
Totally.
And I say that with respect. Like, respect to her, respect to you, clean slate.
Sure.
That's a really good thing.
Definitely.
And that automatically puts her in the like 1% category.
Dude, totally.
For males like you and I.
Yeah.
Shit. So that would be a travesty if you could not make it work, bro.
Sure. Totally, man. Yeah, I think with her, it was almost like at the point where she's transitioning to more of an adulthood life, you know. And I was almost like, hey, you know, I don't want to like take you away from your party days if that's what you want to do, but I'm driven. I'm doing this. I'm very work focused, and I haven't drank in 3 years, man. So I'm like, I just don't do it anymore. I used to a lot. But so yeah, I kind of gave her that like freedom, and she's like, no, I mean, I like that you're pulling me up with you, and she liked that. So I never want to like take away from anyone that I'm dating their life that they want to live. You know, that's not the person I want to be, and I don't want someone to do that to me. So I try to give people freedom. Like, this is where I'm at. If you want to roll with me, let's go. But if not, then let's not.
Yeah, and you don't probably understand it when you're saying it, but that is almost in a sort of a loud but silent sense, a leadership quality. You're saying, because not only are you setting an example by being the man that you are, by leading and trying to become something which they're going to admire and respect, but you're also giving her freedom. But 9 times out of 10, if the woman is in the correct position in her life, when it seems like she is, she's going to almost always go with you.
Sure.
Because she sees that you're a man of ambition. She sees you're a man of charge. She sees you as a man of probably leadership or leader-esque ship.
Yeah.
At least at this point right now in your relationship.
Sure.
And those are all qualities that women search for. So that being the case, she admires you. She respects you. She thinks of you as somebody who could lead her.
Sure.
Level her up, etc. That's what every woman wants. I mean, I shouldn't say every woman. I'm sure there are unicorns that exist in the world that wouldn't want that.
Right.
But come on, man.
But
most women want that.
Yeah, most, man.
Because that's naturally what you're able to do with those qualities is provide for her, give her security, safety, provision, etc.
You know, and I think when you provide those qualities as a man to a woman who's ready for them, that she can manifest herself truly to where, you know, it becomes the empathetic mother or the empathetic, you know, just supportive female that I think most guys are looking for. So when you come authentic and bring good qualities that maybe you developed or you wish to develop and give that to someone, I think it allows, especially the male-female relationship, almost said fellatio, for her to do her thing good. So you can tell where my mind's at, but anyways.
Fuck, dude, that's funny.
Yeah, that went sideways, but so anyways.
Oh my gosh, okay.
So anyway, that's what I think. And you know, and I saw my mom and dad being like that too. My dad was a great leader, and my mom was just, you know, you fall into this motherly role that I think as men is really beautiful to men. Like, dang, that's really like, that's motherly. You know what I mean? So,
well, I can tell you this: if she's not there yet, stick it out with her, man, and wait about a year or so. Because if she's not there yet, provided you keep being you,
sure,
she's gonna get there. And it would be a real shame. Like I said, I don't know the dynamic between you and her. If you fight, if you don't fight, if it's toxic, if it's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But provided that we were living in a cushy world in regards to you and her, your dynamic, wait it out if she's not there yet, man. Yeah. Because that she will get there, and you're just gonna instantiate yourself with her. The more and more she sees you leveling up and you providing that leadership quality to her, and she's going to respect and admire you even more so. And by the way, you set these standards. So this one of the standards is that you don't drink.
Yeah.
Right? Or you don't party like you used to, you know, etc.
Sure.
You may think that's not what the counterpart wants in you. Like, you think that she wants to, like, you know, party with you and all that shit. And I'm sure there are days when she thinks that. I'm not
sure,
but she's not here to defend her point, so I don't want to, you know, say things, put words in her mouth. But more often than not, if that woman is accept it or is accepting the fact that you're holding her accountable,
Yeah.
then that's something that she's going to gravitate more to as well, because who in her life is going to put accountability on her, responsibility on her?
Sure.
And that's not a tyrant thing or a tyrannical thing. It's just you being a leader. And that's being a good leader. You placing accountability on somebody. Look, when you have a job, your boss places accountability on you to be there on time.
Right.
So it's no different.
No different now.
Right? So it's not, again, not to be conveyed as tyrannical. It's just you setting standards on her because you set standards on yourself.
Sure.
But that's a leadership quality, man.
Man, I think speaking of sub A's, bro, you might be like a relationship coach or something.
Oh my God.
Dude,
I'm none of the sort, man.
Dude, that felt pretty good, man. Like you've done this before.
Look, I think it's, if anything, comes from experience, and it's just, and reflection.
Yeah.
And not reading.
Reflection, dude.
And not reading.
So,
I might add. I don't mean to. Look, I tease you about that. I tease you about that, but it's the only thing that I'm not saying that people don't. You're a very smart man, and you're very wise, and you're very reflective, and that's one of the things that I've really, really grown to admire about you. I know where you got it from. It makes sense now because your father was that way, and you're not better than your father. I'm not better than my father. Okay, even if we become more wealthier, more financially free than our parents, we're not better, and we'll never. Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll never think that we're better. Like, you will never think that you're better than your dad ever.
Ever,
dude.
not gonna happen.
Because you respect your dad.
Totally.
Because he's the fucking leader.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not saying that, like, I tease you about these little things here and there.
Yeah.
But, and I know where you got it, and I'm not teasing you in the disparaging sense. It's just, I also think that with people of your caliber that reflect like you do and immerse themselves in such deep thought and deep conversation, I don't think you need that component. I don't think it necessarily even makes you that much better. It might make you better in terms of vocabulary, but you might pick up little golden nuggets here and there. We all do. I do that. I get golden nuggets from fucking TikTok sometimes, man.
Yeah, right.
However, the overarching theme to me, or to the way that I navigate myself, is essentially predicated on my experiences, what data I've collected, and how I can reflect in a unbiased regard towards those experiences. And that's hard too, to become separate from what I've experienced, because there's obviously emotional tethers to whatever I have experienced.
Yeah, absolutely.
So being able to disconnect from that is huge. But that being said, sometimes it's all it takes is you just reflecting more and absorbing more and being able to articulate mindfully how these things affected you, and perhaps how you could circumvent or circumnavigate the situation in a better regard, not only for you, but for somebody else. And I mean, naturally I have a proclivity to think that way when it comes to, I guess, me, my circumstances, my situation. I haven't always been that way, but, I think I have been, but it's never been articulated well, or rather understood or illustrated well, until I got older, because obviously naturally we mature and grow wiser, etc.
Sure.
I can tell you that reading would make me worse, because I've done it, and I've listened to so many people. Like, when I say so many people, I mean like two, and a lot. And I started to realize I'm becoming like this person, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Well, it probably drives you nuts because you've told me before, and I saw it on one of the last podcasts. I think it was, I forget which one it was, but you say you're constantly grading yourself, right? Like, in conversations or at the gym or in, any experience really. So to be grading yourself, it probably was torturous. I mean, I would assume. Yeah.
Okay. So grading myself is something that's an imperative quality for me, at least. I need that, because if I don't, then I'm not held accountable. It's just an accountability. It's another metric to grade accountability, or it's another metric for accountability.
Sure.
So, but it's also very stressful and can be strenuous at the same time, because you're not accepting a lot, because you're grading more than you're accepting, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think you're allowing we all feel like we're not enough, right? I mean, we're always trying to measure up and get and grow and become, unless you're just living a life where you totally deny that, and that's self-destructive. But that feeling of being not enough is good, I think, because it drives you, right, to become more. But I think you've given the freedom of that feeling to be pretty present in your life, which is, I think, what a very good quality about yourself, because you use it to your benefit a lot. It sounds like a lot all the time.
Yeah. I don't know what I do, man. There are a lot of days that I think, what the fuck am I doing? B, I need to be doing something that's more laborious to accrue more, and not wait for an opportunity to present itself, even though that's what this entire life is predicated on, is your opportunities. Right. You get opportunities when you're good enough. But how do you become good enough? Sure. Well, you got to keep practicing, and you got to keep putting in your time and putting effort. Effort times the time will equal the result, but equal the opportunity. But if you don't do those things, if you don't put first the time in, then you'll never have an opportunity. But everyone gets an opportunity. It's just to what extent is that opportunity, and when is it going to come? But that's all of us. I mean,
right.
You had to obviously learn about real estate and be able to become enough to take the test, and then take the test. Well, then that presents opportunity of getting that job for the team, for the what do you call it?
A brokerage.
But that was the opportunity. That was one opportunity for you, right? But that had to come from you putting in the effort and the education, the time that it took to learn shit to then get there. So I guess what are you willing to? How much time are you willing to take to get towards that opportunity, get closer to that opportunity? Because it's not a matter of if the this is the problem. I think with most people, they think, what is that? What if that opportunity doesn't even happen? What if you die tomorrow, man? You can't gauge this life on what ifs. You can, but then you will just end up probably coiling up into a nothing, and then just living a life full of in despair and depression, etc. Well, that's obviously not going to be you. So what's the alternative? The alternative here is for you to keep doing the thing that you find value in, even if it doesn't support anything monetarily right now, because you know it's just a matter of time. Even if it takes you 25 years and you get the opportunity after 25 years, okay, still a matter of time.
Sure.
So if you're continuing to live, why wouldn't you do something that has a reciprocity factor of value in placed in you every single time you do it?
Right.
And so it's just a matter of time, but you have to put towards effort. You have to put effort and practice in the pursuit of the opportunity. That's the only thing to get you there, man.
Yeah, man. And to your point, everyone gets an opportunity. It's, are you ready for it? And obviously, it'll show you if you're ready for it. I mean, I've had opportunities come to me and fucking flop. And
okay,
you know what I mean?
Go on that. So what opportunity did you have that you thought you were ready for that you weren't?
Oh man, I had a big listing presentation. So that's what they call it, when you're trying to show the potential client why you're the one to list their property, right? And so it was a property on about 100 acres, huge, but 5,000 square foot house, ocean view, things like that. And I went in there like thinking I can just charm the pants off of them and get the listing and not really prepare that much. I mean, I don't know. It was like an egotistical, still didn't know that I sucked, but I really sucked. But I went in and there was these guys that were very, very wealthy. And they pummeled my ass. I mean, like they went so fast for me that my fucking head was spinning.
In what way?
And to where like, hey, show me this, show me that. Do you have this? Like, show me this. Like numbers. Just I was so unprepared and it was so evident so quick that I almost wanted to leave work and just go home and just like not be there that day. Like I didn't even want to get my reps in. I was so like, it was like degrading as a man, really. I'm like, and that made me never want to feel like that again.
Yes. And
a lot of it too was my fault because I let them dictate when the meeting was instead of me preparing and being really on top of it. That's what I learned, which I'm trying to dictate when I set my meetings now. Like if Justin, you're ready to list your house, hey, let's go right now. Hey man, I would love to, but I would do a disservice to you because I wouldn't be prepared. Can we do it tomorrow at 4, whenever? So that's what I learned for sure. And again, running your own business too. I mean, a lot of times you have dinner ready with your family, and you can't just flake on the dinner. I mean, what's more important? But again, just being ready for the opportunity and pushing it out maybe a little bit next time. But anyways.
So these people that were listing the house were the ones that were wealthy, and they were talking to you, asking you about all these numbers?
Yeah, Zoom, like three or four guys that were very wealthy.
It was a Zoom meeting?
Zoom.
Oh, if it were not a Zoom meeting, that would have been far worse.
Far worse.
Oh my gosh.
Far worse. Bro. And so anyways, that was about a year and a half ago when I first kind of started getting the hang of real estate. And I went from like maybe listing $700,000 properties to this one would have been about 3 or 4. And I lost the opportunity. And looking back, dude, if you would have just prepared, that would have been life-changing money instead of going in there like, hey, I can just get this. Like I don't even know why I thought it. But anyways,
ego. That's why you thought it, man.
Big time ego.
And you thought, because I've been doing this for like what, half a year at that point.
Sure.
Like, I'm good.
Well, kind of getting good at it for half a year,
right?
At a very lower level. Not saying, anyways. So.
Yeah, you think like you can run with big dogs at that point.
I'm like, I got this, bro.
And then also you don't have a leg up in the regard of looking like you're experienced because you're young looking.
Sure.
So it's like, well, you are young, period. So it's like you walk in there and these people think you can't handle this.
Right away.
Like, who do you think you are? If you had came in person, it'd have been far worse for you, bro. Far worse.
Dude, I can only be here right now, bro.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It would have been like you would have gotten red in the. You probably already got red in the face on camera.
Totally red.
You got red there. They would have been able to pick up your body language, and then it would just. You would have got crippled, dude, bro, in front of them.
Totally crippled.
Because that's happened to me when I first started personal training.
Did it really?
Oh my gosh!
Shoot, man.
I had a story time. So when I first started training, this is probably like 2010 or so. Nobody knows about this shit except for like my mom and dad and my girlfriend at the time. I was on this reality show to do personal training. Well, we were filming the pilot.
Yeah. And
one of the tests was to give workouts to random people based on a 5-minute conversation you had with them previously.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be centered around what they could endure based on their limitations they gave you.
Okay.
So one thing I overlooked and I didn't even hear.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't think that I was that advanced where I would even have known how to work around it back then.
Yeah.
But one person had a rotator cuff issue. And one of the things I had this person do was battle ropes.
Okay.
They had impingement, a shoulder impingement. That's what it was.
Got it.
Okay, so when they go to they're filming us do these workouts with these people. Mm-hmm. The master trainer is overseeing the entire operation.
Okay.
I then sit down with the master trainer for an interview.
Yeah.
And this is all being documented, filmed, and he says to me, so wasn't one of the issues that such and such had a shoulder impingement?
Yeah.
Why would you have them do battle ropes when they have an impinging shoulder? And at the time, I didn't even know what shoulder impingement was.
Okay, got it.
Like, what the fuck? And I said, impingement? I said, impingement where? And later today, I know that he didn't know as much as he thought he knew because then I find out that, because obviously through way more extensive education, he says there's only impingement. There only can be impingement in one area of the body. It's the shoulder. Well, now obviously I understand it to be there's hip impingement as well. Like
sure,
like obviously impingement up in your ostentabular joint right here in your hips that could get impinged or whatever. But he was just talking about for purposes of the shoulder. Okay, so he was grilling me on this, and it was being filmed, and I know there's a level of grilling that has to take place because of the camera.
Sure,
but that made me feel like fucking 3 inches tall, man.
Oh, I bet, man.
But then again, I thought I was this hot trainer for stepping on the scene. Like, I can do anything.
Yeah, shoot. I mean, young kid in Hollywood on a pilot?
Not what it was, bro. And I mean, that's what I thought.
Sure.
That's not how it played out. And I got a reality check real quick. But it's those reality checks that help you to level up, man. Sure. And the only people that give you them typically are society and other males. Like society will mirror to you where you're lacking or the market or whatever, depending on if you're selling something or what have you. They'll tell you where you're fucking up and or males.
Sure.
So the society or the society aspect of things, like the societal aspect of things, marketing, if you're selling something, and or males will tell you where you're fucking up, man. And this guy told me, look, even if I had been perfect, he would have found something because it was TV.
Sure.
And he's gonna grill me on something. But that made me look fucking stupid.
Yeah, right.
And at that point, I didn't know if this pilot was gonna air and it was gonna be a big thing or not. So I'm thinking like, motherfucker. I'm like looking at him and my eyes are speaking motherfucker to him, you know? But I just put my tail between my legs and walk off the set and I just go home. But I didn't stop. I just kept going, right? That's just a bump in the road. But you're going to get a dose of reality probably multiple times in your ventures.
Sure.
Provided they're important enough to you, you keep going, man. And that's really, there's really no other advice to give anybody. It's just, you have to keep going. If it's important enough, you will.
If it's important enough. Yeah.
Look, man, food is important and you keep doing what you have to do to make fucking money, to buy food, to eat, because living is important to you. So if this thing is like living, if this thing is analogous to living, then you'll keep doing it, whatever it takes to keep doing it.
Whatever it takes. Yeah, just think. I mean, if it wasn't that important to you, you wouldn't be here right now, man. I mean, if you just gave up, we wouldn't have your podcast, or you wouldn't have trained hundreds of, maybe thousands of people now.
Who knows, bro? Maybe I would done something better. I don't know, but this is my path. This is the path that I've carved, and I intend on taking it to the extent and seeing where it's going to go. Apart from that, what's the alternative?
What's the alternative, right? Man, thanks for sharing, dude.
But that just goes to show that, and I guarantee you that I'm going to get checked more in my life. From this point on, I'll still get checked, I'm sure, man.
Right.
Because there will be a point where I think I'm ready and I'm not ready. And I think that the only thing I levy on is, look, excuse me, is that even when you're good enough and you get the opportunity, you still might flop. But provided you're not getting the opportunity yet, you haven't got the call yet, you haven't got that $1 million email yet, you haven't got that life-changing person to reach out to you yet.
Sure.
It doesn't mean it's not coming. And B, just because it hasn't happened might just be the thing to tell you that you're not ready yet, even when you think you're ready. That's, if you're spiritual or you believe in God, that's God's way of saying, Chris, Justin, you're not ready yet.
The trials and tribulations, man. I mean, biblical speaking. And, you know, my stepmom's super spiritual lady, man. She told me lately, because I kind of burn out lately. Like, I went to her and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of like fucked up right now. Like, you know, because I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, me and her, I can talk to her about anything. She's the homie. But she's just like, hey, you know, it's God's way of telling you you're not ready to maybe get to that next level yet, or you need to rest, or you need to do something different temporarily to get over this hump. And I'm like, dang, you're right. Like, as much as it sucks to hear that, like, maybe you're right. Like, I've been going hard for 3 years nonstop, right? And sometimes we hit a wall and we don't want to, especially as men, we're like, no, I'll just fucking rip through that wall. So, you know.
But 3 years to you is a long time. 3 years to me, a year to me is a long time.
Sure.
That's 365 days of doing the same thing. You know, provided take weekends off, let's say 340 days a year or whatever it is. You do the same thing, man.
Right.
With Groundhog Day, every day.
Every day. No real vacations, really, man. Especially, the only vacations I've taken is going to business conventions. That's it. And
that may be, so that to you or I is a lot of time.
A lot of time, yeah.
But to God, the creator of the universe, it's, and I know that's nebulous to say the creator of the universe, but just for purposes of the conversation, it's like, look, there is an overarching entity that watches over. That's what I believe. Even if I can't describe it, define it, etc.
Yeah.
I don't care. I believe in that. And so that measure essentially is saying to us, look, man, you're equipped and you think you put in a lot of time.
Right.
But a lot of time to you is nothing, is a blip for me. And what I'm saying is you need to keep doing this for maybe 12 more years.
Sure.
But because you think you're refined enough now to go through whatever opportunity I give you and make it out, I'm telling you, you're not.
You're not.
And so I know 3 years, 1 year, this seems like a lot of time,
Sure.
but to me it's a blip. And if you can only understand that from 30 to 40, it'll feel like a lifetime. But from 40 to 90, when you die, you're going to be in a different position, and nobody's going to be able to take that position from you because you've created it.
Sure.
Right? But that's why you have to, at some point, you have to get numb. You have to get numb to the days, to the pursuit of Groundhog Day every day. You have to get numb to it. The only way you're going to ever make yourself into anything is by adopting numbness to whatever pursuit you're in, man. And that seems like a negative. No, that's a good thing. Because when you become numb, you're just on fucking autopilot. And you just do and do and do and do. And then all of a sudden, one day, something different happens or something changes in your life. An opportunity presents itself. A person that's a life changer comes in your life and presents something to you that you wouldn't be able to accrue on your own. Something like that will happen, but it's a matter of time, man. You just have to put in your reps, and you have to get numb to the actual pursuit. I would argue that's the only way for you to make it out of this thing, because otherwise you'll be in your fucking head all the time, every day, and that's only going to draw you further and further away from the thing that you want to really create or do.
Totally, man.
Guys in the gym, most guys are pussies. And I'm going to tell you this. Most guys train on the fucking cables when they're $150, no muscle. Why the fuck are you doing cables? You need to get your ass on that squat rack. You need to get your ass on that bench press. You need to deadlift some weight like my man Chris here, repping out 545 like it's fucking nothing. You need to do that shit, man. And you need to do that shit before you go to the cables and do your fucking tricep isolated extensions. No. You're conflating the minutia with the fucking macro here. The macro is you develop a base. And that takes years to develop the base.
Man.
You're wasting time, bro. And look, I'm 13. No, I started training seriously in 2009. I am that many years invested into this thing, and I still do compounds every fucking day. Every day. That's 90% of my workats, compound movements, dude.
Still the base. You're still building.
Still the basics, dude. You think that your 160 pounds soaking wet ass can go above me in that regard, and now you're better than what I'm doing and do cables and shit, do the easy shit? You haven't accrued that level yet. And even if you have, you understand the metrics of success that are tethered to the compound movements, and that's why you keep doing them.
Dude, so true, man.
And you just become more of a pussy, bro. They become more of a pussy when they're trying to feel the tricep on the extension. Feel the... Pussy! Get your ass and do some skull crushers. Do some dips. Like you're just, and so you're just more so than anything. What's the word I want? You're pussying yourself into more of a lesser state than you could be, man. Like you're just doing that by doing this small shit. So become numb to the hard shit and just keep doing it. Face down, keep fucking walking.
Man, I think that's the title of the show.
What?
Numbness.
I
think numbness.
It's true,
foundation, bro. And ultimately you see that when people don't appreciate the foundation phase and jump right to roids, and then you see them going hard, they're aggressive for like a year, then you never see them again. It's like, I think you're totally right, man. If you become numb to the process, accept the fact that you need to build the foundation, and no matter how fucking long it takes. And I think it's almost like a delusional quality. Like, I can't look at tomorrow because I might go off the path. If I look at tomorrow the same way as, oh fuck, it's gonna be the same day, that diverts you for sure. I totally agree with you, man. Or it can potentially be substantially, it could be a downfall to anything in life that you were trying to pursue long term.
Like it's good to think about, it's good to reflect, and I do that often. But it doesn't impart itself as more superior than the act of doing the thing every single day. And if that requires me to be numb to the process and to just do and facilitate and build on the archive, then I'll do it.
There you go.
You have to, man. It's an imperative thing to adopt, and it's hard, but it just, when you've done this so many times, it just ends up becoming it. That's what it ends up becoming. Have you ever sat there with a barbell and just curled the barbell like for 100 reps?
Yeah, I did the 100 rep challenge. Yeah, for sure. Something like that.
Have you ever done that with bench press?
No, more like biceps or pull downs.
Yeah.
Like that,
Okay, so I've done it with a few things. I've done it with leg press too.
Okay.
Where I do a matter of whatever weight for an entire song. Right? I just put a song on play. It's like 4 minutes, and I just leg press for the entire 4 minutes. Right? At some point, everything you were trying to once work. Now's not working. It's all ancillary muscles that are working in sort of support to get whatever weight up that you're doing, right?
Yeah, right.
What happens to the primary muscles at that point? They become numb to the stimulus.
Sure.
They're still working, but you can't feel them because they just kind of exited the stimulus.
Right.
You get to the point in that specific set where now the set is analogous to your pursuit, where you are only doing what it takes to get the number now, to get the number up.
Right.
You're not focusing on the muscle. The muscles actually become numb. It's kind of dormant to some degree. Although it's still contracting, elongating, and shortening, it's not being felt. The stimulus is done. It's otherwise numb. That's what we have to be in our pursuit for whatever we're doing. We can't just focus on the instant gratification of the stimulus every single day, because that's not likely going to be the case every day.
Sure, totally.
You just have to focus on the end result. The end result is getting this shit over with.
Right.
And in the process to get this shit over with, or rather the opportunity that comes, you're going to have to become numb to the process.
Totally, man. It's a robotic process for sure.
Well, that's what you're in right now, man. That's what you're doing, whether you want to receive it or admit it to it or not. That's what is going on with you, because if it weren't, you would have stopped this a long time ago, because there are a lot of things that could have taken you out.
Totally.
But now you have a different drive, and it's evident in the way you speak. You obviously refined yourself in terms of that position in real estate, and it's only going to get better. And even in the attempt of it getting better, which it will, you're going to have days where you're going to slide back.
Yeah.
But in juxtaposition, good days or days that you keep propelling forward, and days that you're like, fuck, man, what am I doing?
Sure.
They're so minuscule, man. And they just take a back seat in that regard, because it's more important for you to continually climb and worry about the pursuit rather than get hung up on these little trips.
Right, man. And I think it's finding something like that enough in your life to where, the imposter syndrome. Oh, I shouldn't be in this. Who the fuck am I to be doing this? To like, I don't know, man, make that in the background so much, or just, again, deny it. I think there's denial in business or anything long-term you're trying to pursue. Denial to the point where it's like, I'm just not going to let the negative divert me, man. And I think that's a big thing. Just as bad as denial really is in real life, I think it can be cultivated in business a little bit to deny the negative voice or the attack or the enemy, if you want to call it too.
Well, what drives you to keep doing it?
Yeah, just you ask me that, or in general? I mean, again, financial freedom, man. Just one day being good and being able to enjoy fully without having to think about finances, my family, my friends, my experiences. So
is there anything like so I guess the provisionary aspect, right? So that, I guess that kind of arches over everything, because if you're able to provide, you're able to provide for not only you, your parents, the family you create,
right,
yourself. Is that that's the main thing then?
Main thing.
The financial freedom aspect.
Main thing. And I think it has to be connected to something other than yourself, because we can only get so far. But if you notice that the things you do in life that you really do with aggression and drive, it always has to do with people outside of yourself that you care about. I think so.
Yeah.
And I think with selfish pursuit, you'll burn out.
Yeah, 100%, man. a lot of people do the selfish thing because they think it's naturally what they should do.
Sure.
And it's what maybe they eat, live, and breathe for, let's say, a season of their life.
Yeah.
But it's a flame that's gonna fizzle out very abruptly on them, right? It's like you doing something for somebody else, like even in the rare occasion that you might compliment somebody, right? Because us as men, we don't typically compliment other men, right? So when that happens, it's a rare occasion. When you do, you feel different about yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
You almost feel more elated and more evolved to some degree, you know? But when you're doing something that you know other people are going to benefit from, not people just in the interim of you doing it based on whatever benevolence your pursuit carries and will lend its hand towards other people in the process of you doing it, but for people that are going to benefit from you outside when everything is all said and done, when you're like an Ed Milet sort of thing, you know what I mean? Like where you can extend massively, graciously to lots of people, you know what I mean? Like, and by the way, that's your family is in the forefront. You doing it for them, that driving factor, I'd argue that has to be there, man. And unless you're, like I said, a dark triad person,
sure,
narcissistic, Machiavellian, or psychopathic, you're going to have to adopt. That is the driving mechanism for you to make it one day.
Yeah.
You know, the advent of other people benefiting, man, and people that are close to you
totally
benefiting.
Close to you, and then like you're saying, ultimately further out, because I think, again, I agree with, I believe in God too. I mean, definitely more so now than probably ever, but I think we're all connected in the sense that we're all little pieces of the whole. And once you affect someone like that, it percolates out. And I think you can feel it, like you're saying, you feel a little elated the more you help people. And, it does feel like almost like kind of like you're a bitch if you feel like that, but it also feels like you're evolving too. Like, oh, the old me wouldn't have done that. I would have just worried about Chris or Justin, right? But it is an evolutionary process to where it's like, you're becoming more and you're affecting more. And I don't know, man, I think it's just good when you start to do that. You find something that you can start doing that through, and then ultimately you feel like, the true you.
Yeah, and that's important. And some people don't ever get the opportunity to experience the true them because they're just worried about the here and the now and making ends meet.
Right.
And that's okay. And that's, to some degree, you have to do that.
You have to, yeah.
But I always say this, you can't let the vision or the dream fizzle out with regards to the overwhelming voices of you trying to just stay above bar. You know what I mean? Like, so that means you have to lend time to the things that you really, 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 that really embody who you are. Because let's face it, you go into your, let's say you have a basic 9-to-5 where you sell paper.
Sure.
Well, that's probably not embodying who that person is entirely, right? Doesn't make up their character to the umpteenth degree, right? But if they were to dismiss or even discount what particular vision that they have or things that they dream about and they could build it as a reality, but it's going to take them time and effort and energy to do so. If they just dismiss them or discard them fully, they think that that's the right thing to do because it's logical. Because what makes sense is putting the effort and the time into the things that are making me money.
Right.
Well, the other things are going to make me money. Yeah, but that other thing could build an extension of your character.
Sure.
And really be of utility to people that would never be able to experience you otherwise. And you wouldn't have that understanding that could be the case if you don't immerse yourself in this specific avenue towards that vision or dream that you want to create.
Yeah.
But it's going to take time. And that's why I come full circle back to the fact that you can't think about the thing, man. You just have to become numb to it and just do it all the time.
Numb to it. Yeah. Yeah, man. And just ultimate life fulfillment too. I mean, even though we're numb to this stuff, what we're doing yourself, I'm sure you're numb to this. You do this twice a week for what? We got 400 episodes or close to now?
300, you'll be 349 or something.
That's
like that.
insane, bro. That's so much. But for you to become numb, but it's also a fulfillment process, I would believe, because I see the real Justin comes out, especially like 20 minutes in, you clicked and that was it, dude. You locked in. And to see that part of you is really cool, man, because, you know, ultimately we're looking in life to, for pleasure, right? I mean, pleasure to be fulfilled. I mean, we want to be fulfilled out of life. Any human being wants more fulfillment. And even though you're numb, I see you fulfilled by this to where the numbness is worth it.
Thank you for that, dude. And you're right. Like I can't put I can't quantify it or put a metric on it, but it definitely is fulfilling in a way that I can't really describe. And look, I don't know where this is going to take me. I don't know if it's going to take me anywhere, but I know that there's something that the universe can't deny. And that's me putting in my time, my reps, my practice. You cannot deny me if I have so much in the archive. You just can't. I'll become relevant as a byproduct of the time that I've put forth into this, and the effort and the guests that I've had and the conversations that I've had, etc. All the hours of accrual. You won't be able to deny me. I'll be undisputable in that regard, even if it comes into nothing or it goes into nothing. You can't deny that with people. If they put in the time, you cannot deny that the fact that they are not relevant as a course of them putting in time and putting in their effort and accruing something of measure. Right. Even if it lends its hand to nothing, you cannot dismiss what they've accrued.
No, you can't.
You cannot dismiss the archive. If I take you into my house and I have an entire room full of trophies of bodybuilding shows that I've won, which doesn't exist. However, if that is the case, but nobody knows me in the mainstream media, you can't deny that room littered with fucking trophies and what it took for me to accrue each and every one of those trophies. Yeah. You can't deny that. Ever. I'm undisputable in that regard. And for that reason, that makes me relevant for purposes of bodybuilding. Right? So if I accrue, for purposes of the convo, the podcast, if I accrue so many podcasts, so many conversations, so many people telling their stories on here, dispensing with very, very bountiful information for people, for other people to use and excel from. Yeah. You can't deny that. It's there. In front of you.
It's almost like imprinted on time. Like
it is.
Universe. You know what I mean? It is. It's imprinted there to where you etch something in that will never go away. Whether it influences millions or not, but it's sketched, it's etched into the fucking sand sets of time, I believe that's the word.
Right. And then in the pursuit of you trying to accrue the archive, you will become relevant insofar as people that locate who you are on whatever spot of metric or any platform, you'll be relevant with them. And if nothing happens, well, you'll still have that relevancy. You'll still have that undeniable understanding of, look, I did all this. This is all. And in the process, you're going to cultivate a better you. It just can't help but be the case.
Totally, man.
You just can't. If I'm now better because I had this conversation with you. If I didn't have the conversation and I just did my normal Saturday shit, I would have been less. You got to understand that, man. So that is a benefit to me. It's a benefit to you. It's a benefit to people that are listening and going to view this or rather listen to it on Spotify or Apple. It's going to be a benefit to them. If it didn't happen, I would be less and worse as a result, because if I'm not moving forward, I'm moving backwards.
Makes sense, man. So I mean, what's the motivation? You know, we talked about my motivation. What's yours, man? Like, what are you doing this for? What's your end goal?
I can't say it on here, bro, because people listen that I don't want them to hear. People are listening that I don't want to listen, but they listen by default because they're very close to me. Sure. They listen to every podcast. Yeah. Or most. And I'm afraid that if they listen to this one and I say what the ultimate goal is on here, they'll know. And this is something that I'm working on to be able to surprise them with in the future. You know,
I'm going to put you on the spot there, but all right, we got to tell me afterwards, man.
Yeah, I will.
You know, that shit fires me up, man. People's vision and their why, Because it stokes your why too. Ultimately, man, it's like, man, that's cool. He's doing this for that. I'm doing for that. You know, just it re-sparks the embers. You know what I mean?
I will say this. One thing that I would like to be able to do is not think about money. And so when I say that's not the impetus behind this.
Sure.
That is the impetus behind this was the fact that I like to divulge therapeutically. And that's essentially what I'm doing here. I'm divulging with shit therapeutically. I was doing it in my solo sessions.
Sure.
And I do with people like yourself.
Yeah.
And I find value in that.
Sure.
Now, when it or if it becomes monetarily handsome, that's just a byproduct on whatever pretense this is, or rather this is the pretense of whatever that you know it's going to result in terms of money in the future.
Sure.
But just because it may not be there yet, it doesn't mean I'm going to not do it. And because this not only equips me, but it builds competency in me, and that competency builds confidence. And that's how I navigate my life. I mean, if I'm not confident, I can't do really anything.
Sure.
So, and the more confident I am, the better I do at things, no matter what I touch.
No matter what.
So that's the driver, so to speak. But the end product or the end result, I want to be able to affect people in ways that they would never be able to be, that they would never experience that touch from anybody else from. Like in terms of I just say it, the act of giving.
Sure.
And being able to do things that, like, I have a really big passion for animals, so dogs, more importantly. And I would love to start a nonprofit. And one thing I will do is start a nonprofit for shelter to obviously take in dogs that have no homes or being beaten or abused or battered, and put them into a shelter and give them a home. That's something that and obviously you can call like a sort of like a pound situation or whatever, but there'd be no money derived from it. It would but I need to be so well off. Well, even if that's a bleeding stream of money,
it's okay.
I don't care.
Yeah. You know, man, I think contribution is like the ultimate form of happiness, man. When you tie that in, it's like things change like on a cellular level. You know, like, and to your point, man, I think getting to that point where you can do that and not even have to worry about it if it does become a bleeding source and that becoming a big part of your existence, dude, that's cool, man. Yeah,
well, that would be one thing that I would love to do. And the other, obviously there are more things, but like I said, for purposes of people listening, I can't allow that cat out of the bag yet, because that's been something that I've been mindful of for the last 7 years.
Got it, man.
Like every day I think about that. Every day,
no
multiple times throughout the day I think about, and it's now just imparted itself as a part of my conscious. Man. It's imparted itself as part of my conscious. That thought, I don't have to say shit. I don't have to write it out anymore. I used to write it out all the time, every morning. I don't have to do that anymore because it's imparted on my conscious. I think about it. It's autonomous now. Yeah, it's almost like you're creating the new neural waves in your mind where it's just that's you now. Yes, 100%.
Imprints in your brain.
Yeah, and I'm sure you do the same thing. Anybody that's successful, man, and even on their way to success, does that. They may not know how to articulate it or they understand it in full respect, but that's what they do. Yeah. They have to constantly feed themselves these thoughts, these understanding thoughts, and rather, even if they might be delusional in the beginning, or because nobody in their family has done that. If nobody in my family has done that, I'm going to be the first in my family to ever do it. And I'm going to be the one to fucking break the cycle, to let people know that that's not just this. It's not, owning a business is great. Owning multiple businesses is great. But doing this and being at this level is still somewhere that you could be. But that's not the thing that drives me. The thing that ultimately, I guess the only thing that drives me is, the main thing is that thought that I'm going to tell you off mic, imparted to why I'm doing this. Man, and so I mean, really, man, what you're saying is so cool, dude, because you're trying to create generational change. Because like, you can't live, Justin's not going to live forever, but you can create something that lineage-wise will roll and roll and roll. And it could start with you. Like your kids or grandparent kids will look back and be like, yeah, you know, because grandpa did it, you know, maybe I can do it too.
and changing that generational lineage, man, to the positive is crazy cool.
Well, and it will lend its hand towards just an extrapolation sort of effect with the other with my kin or their kin, etc. Like it did with, like it started with your dad with you, man. Like your dad didn't come from the best upbringing, right?
Right.
So he wanted to change himself.
That's
and
right.
So he
man.
did, and so then you obviously complimented that, or you either are complimented from that, and now you're taking it in different avenues.
Different avenues. When my brother died, I said no more alcohol. He died from alcohol and drugs. No more of that. That's not going to happen in my family anymore. If as much as I can control it. I mean, maybe it will, but if I can control it right now and inspire my kid to be like, hey, dad didn't drink, he gave it up. Why should I do it? That's good shit. You know what I mean? Especially when it's impacted my family so much. And you're right, things stopped at my dad, things can stop at me, and then it could just keep snowballing, dude.
That's what will happen, man. Because I can't see you going backwards.
Man, yeah. So, but good stuff, dude.
It's been good, man.
I
know you got to get.
We can talk for another 4 hours.
Easily. With bathroom breaks and everything, we could easily do that.
100%, man. It's been great, bro.
It has been, man. We'll tell people where they can find you, bro.
Absolutely. So Chris_Cucchiara is my main handle for Instagram. I don't really go on anything else other than Instagram. Chris_Cucchiara_realtor is my realtor page. And then you can text or call 805-285-8110 anytime.
Say that number one more time.
805-285-8110.
Say it again.
805-285-8110.
We know 3 times it needs to be said for people to
Is that what it is?
Really
3 times.
remember it.
Okay. Yeah. I got to remember that 3 times. I'll say it on voicemails now. Call me back.
They're going to be like, motherfucker, you just said this shit.
I'm going to have you with a quote that says, say it 3 times.
Say it 3 times.
And then I told Gilbert from the Slow Barbershop I was going to give
shout
him a
out to Gilbert.
Yeah, lined me up super good. Had to look fresh because I know my boy was going to look fresh. This dude doesn't step out of the house without looking.
Oh, stop.
Hollywood right here.
Oh, stop, dude.
So good looking to Gib. We call him Gib. So
Gibby, yeah.
All right,
well,
man.
I love it, bro. I thank you for your time, man. Thank you for being here, bro. It was a pleasure.
Bro.
We'll do it again, man.
I look forward to it, my guy.
Done.
Dunzo.